Okay, so I'm doing this video. I think this is the first time I've ever actually posted something on YouTube where it's just one of those rant things that people do, but this is something that's really been bothering me, and I'm hoping that just by saying something about it, it'll get it off my chest, because while I'm at work, I'm actually on break at work right now. That's why there's the stale background behind me. But while I'm at work, I listen to YouTube videos of just people saying their opinions and doing debates and stuff. And one of the big things that has been coming up recently is this statement that Richard Dawkins said about how he had a case of mild pedophilia against him as a child, and that he didn't think it equated to more serious forms of pedophilia. And people have just been all over him for this. And you can find it. I'm not going to repeat any of it. But the thing that really bothers me about it is that he's getting eviscerated from the community of reason. And that's what really bothers me more than anything. I don't know Dawkins personally. I don't have any sort of empathy or support for him directly, or have any opinions about anything that happened to him as a child, frankly, because it's not me, it's not anyone I know. But I do get upset when people abandon reason over emotion, and that seems to be what's happening. And so I wrote down a few things that I had to say about this, one of which is that this should not have been a surprise to anyone that Dawkins said this, because his entire fame, he's not famous for being an atheist or a biologist or anything, really. He's famous for being blunt, for addressing controversial issues bluntly. So this is such a case of people saying, well, I loved you until you said something I cared about, and now I hate you. The entire point of reason debate is disagreeing with each other. We should look for things that we disagree about, because it helps us get more perspectives into something. And so to say that somehow Dawkins has abandoned us by saying something controversial is ridiculous. You just agreed with him before. The second issue is that I know from people I know and from personal experience, that yes, there are different degrees of crimes. And this is something that's totally non-controversial with things like killing people. I mean, you say, oh no, it's there's no such thing. Well, there's negligent manslaughter, vehicular manslaughter, accidental death where people are trying to help someone and end up killing them, and cold-blooded murder, calculated murder by insanity. There's all sorts of different degrees. This is totally uncontroversial. But then with sex crimes, we feel that we have to say that all of them are serious, and that they're all just these horrible, horrible things. And in doing so, you're exposing yourself for not being reasonable, because this is something that we allow for everything else. And so for the community of reason to say that there's no discussion about this is completely antithetical to everything that we support. We, as if we are some sort of, bound community. But there's at least that one thing, that we don't let emotion get into our discussions. That's what makes us people of reason. And even if there is a political reason for saying, like, you can't treat any sex crime as anything less than the most serious, which I think is absurd, even from a purely political point of view, please consider, if you really care about protecting people and about addressing the issues of sex crime, that when you say that any, as Dawkins called it, mild sex crime is equivalent to the most serious one, that you can't say there's no such thing as, or you can't say that there's such a thing as a mild sex crime because they're all serious. You just opened the gate for people who are in defense of serious sex crimes. And there are people like that, and they are the real problem. They're the ones that we all hate. The people who say that, well, I'm not even going to get into it. There are people who defend serious sex crimes. And by saying that they're all serious, you open the gate for them to reply. It's like, well, yeah, everyone hates rape, but this thing that happened that is awful, they'll just say that, this is one of the mild ones. And you can't listen to them because they say that any tiny little misunderstanding is a horrible sex crime. So you have to ignore them. And they're wrong, but they have an argument, an arguable point. And just from a purely political standpoint, we shouldn't open the doors to that. We shouldn't open the doors to saying that we're going to get outraged and offended by every little thing that happens, because that's exactly what people who minimize these sorts of things accuse people of doing. And finally, it just to the heart of the genuineness of this outrage, of whether this is really genuine. If there's people that really honestly believe that what Dawkins was saying, that he was saying something horrible or falsely equating or suggesting that, I've seen all sorts of flavors of it, but people who are saying, that how dare Dawkins say that that there's any such thing as a minimal sex crime, because what you're doing is you're blaming the victim, right? You're suggesting that victims shouldn't speak out against this. That's the most common argument I hear. I can't believe that you actually think that. I mean, I don't believe that you actually think that, simply by virtue of the fact that Dawkins just confessed that he was the victim of a sex crime, and you attacked him. So you can't say that Dawkins is reprehensible for this and that you're on the right side of the argument because Dawkins is attacking the victim, because he didn't attack the victim. He forgave the aggressor. Do you understand the distinction? There was not a single victim that he blamed for anything. He was speaking out of forgiveness and reconciliation. The only person who attacked a victim of a sex crime was you. I hope that, if anything, once we get over this initial emotional, visceral outrage, that in time, this is going to become a realization that we have to forgive Dawkins for being, tactless? I don't know that there's anything to forgive. I don't think he apologized for anything. This is who he is. And by him apologizing, he would be saying, oh, and I don't deserve to be known for anything because this is the only thing that I'm worth. That's his contribution to society, is bringing these things to light. And that just once his own fans disagree with him and they forget everything he ever tried to teach them. And I think it's unfortunate. So I hope that we at least realize that those of us who were angry at him for what he did have violated our own rules of reason.